fight for God, honor, country, family. Yourself like you don't care. You fight!
In order to keep your musket in good repair and able to fire, there were certain tools that were needed to service it. Some of these tools were carried by individual soldiers. Other tools for more specialized functions were carried by the non-commissioned officers in the regiment. The ramrod end is threaded so that these tools can be fitted to it. This is the worm. It's used to clean the inside of the barrel. It's actually used to grab patches that are saturated with oil. Patches are cloth that are either linen or cotton that are used to wipe down the inside of the barrel with the worm. Occasionally they'll fall off, and the worm can grab it. There's our patch. The bullet puller also screws onto the end of the ramrod. The bullet puller had coarse threads like a wood screw. When it went down the barrel to the stuck bullet, it could be screwed in, grab the ball, and then pull it out the end of the barrel. These are some of the other tools that are needed to take the musket apart. This is the musket tool or nipple wrench. And this is a spring vise. This tool was called a pin punch. The musket's pretty easy to take apart. The first thing you need to do is pull the ramrod out. The next piece to come off are the barrel bands. There are 3 barrel bands. You collapse the spring, pull them out, take them off. Next you take the musket tool, which is a 3-bladed screwdriver. Open it up to the widest blade and take out the top screw to the barrel. The barrel can now be lifted out of the stock. The hammer has to be cocked back, and the barrel is just simply lifted right out. The musket tool also has a wrench end on it. The wrench end is used to take the cone off. A cone is the place where a gun can be easily fouled. Fouling is a buildup of powder that creates a constriction where the charge is to be fired. With the cone removed, the barrel can be easily cleaned and the cone checked to see whether it's clear or not. The musket tool is again used to remove the screws on the back of the lock. When the screws are removed, the lock can be taken out. The lock is the mechanism that has all the internal parts and springs that allow the hammer to drop and fire the gun. The musket tool is again used to remove the screws from the trigger guard and the trigger. These screws are seated directly into wood. In order to completely remove the trigger and trigger guard, a pin punch is used. The pin punch is also used to take out the barrel band springs. There are 5 internal parts in the lock that can be taken apart to break it down further. The first thing that must be done is the mainspring screw must be loosened and removed. The 5 major parts inside the lock are the mainspring, the sear spring, the sear, which comes in contact with the trigger, the bridle, and the tumbler. To collapse the mainspring, a spring vise is put onto the spring and tightened. That holds it in place so it can be lifted out. Before any of the internal parts can be removed, the mainspring must be collapsed and held in place. You'll notice visually the difference between the lock plate and the internal parts here. These parts are case hardened. That's why they're dark blue. They are harder metal than the lock plate itself because they come in much more contact with themselves, and there is much more wear on them. Case hardening is a heating and cooling process that makes those parts stronger than regular steel. To put it all together, you just do all that backwards. The musket is now reassembled.